Welcome to the creative side of things,
where we empower and inspire business owners and entrepreneurs to tap into their inner creative,
from standing out in saturated markets
to debunking and challenging the status quo.
We'll learn firsthand from actual small business owners how they've applied creativity, imagination, and common sense to grow their businesses. I'm Javier, Chief Creator and founder of High Ground Creative.
And I'm Meghan, founder and CEO of Cheek & Co Clothing.
I'm Gen X and her dad.
I'm Gen Z and his favorite daughter.
Oh, that's debatable.
Well, it's not up for debate. Together we are creative thinkers,
design experts,
branding gurus,
imagination igniters,
and coffee addicts. Keep listening and we'll prove it to you.
Hey, you might learn something.
Imagine that.
Ready?
Let's get creative. Try not to spill that.
He's already bossing me around. Okay. Meghan.
Father.
Are you
because mom yelled at me when I called you Javi. So.
Hello, daughter.
Hello, we're back. It feels for us like it's been a bit, but not for our audience.
No, it is. That's right. We're not telling them what date it is.
No. Only when there's a holiday, I usually mention it.
Right. See, I'm touching. You guys make me all kind of paranoid now. I got to do this thing.
Yes.
I'm not allowed to touch this, people. So.
Everyone who's listening, you need to keep yelling at Javi for touching the mic because it's just
I'm sorry.
Noise.
All right. So
okay.
Welcome everybody back to the creative side of things, where we empower and inspire business owners and entrepreneurs and everybody else for that matter. You can listen to. You don't have to be a business owner. You can have a side hustle. You can be want-entrepreneur.
Yeah. You don't have to ever own a business. We're just talking about how to tap into that inner creative. Right. And we call our listeners our right brainers.
Right brainers. God gave you a brain, two sides, left side, right side.
Both very important.
Very important.
But we just kind of lean.
We kind of lean
with
to
the
the
right brainers.
Right. So get it? Right. Never mind. So Meghan, let's get going. There's today, somebody's listening to this. We always talk like it's some big reveal but if somebody's watching this or listening to it, they already know who the guest is going to be. But we act like it's some big thing.
They might not if they're just going through their playlist, Maybe they didn't see the title yet.
Right. Yeah. And I'm actually recording, so that's good. All the stuff is going, so we got the right angles. So, Meghan,
I wanted to share a quote that I found.
Okay.
That kind of goes into what we're doing today. Okay. And then you have one, I think.
I do have one.
So this one, and guys, I yelled at my dad because he put the wrong person who said a quote that I said.
Oh, did I mess that up?
I already addressed it on Instagram, but I looked stupid because I was like, "Oh, this is from Pablo Picasso," and it was not.
It wasn't Pablo Picasso?
No, I fixed it, but it was like Brent something. But these are correct.
I blame it on Google.
So if I mess up, just blame him because I'm reading something you found. Okay. So the only limit to your impact is your imagination and commitment. So the reason I like this one a lot is the commitment part, because yes, creativity and imagination can be loosey-goosey and is important in its own way, but committing to it is just as important, because if you're not making time to create, if you're not, if that mindset isn't there to create, it's not going to happen.
No, I agree.
So I really like that.
I love that.
The commitment part.
And the thing is, we have imagination, we have ideas, and ideas are great, but ideas are nothing unless you execute. You have to do. At some point, you have to step in and start doing things, right? Mm-hmm. So the commitment part is, how committed are you to that idea to execute and actually fulfill that?
Because a lot of times people are like overthinking it, making lists and like goals and vision boards. And it's like, okay, but are you going to take a step? Like, it could be literally anything.
Right. And that's, Is there a pill for that?
Probably.
But people get stuck in that. What's the saying? It's procrastination, but it's more like indecision, right? So there's decision constipation they have, or if they make a decision.
And just like being a perfectionist in general.
There's never going to be a right time. Just start.
Yeah.
So commit.
You can always change things if it's not working.
And look, we're not saying like we have it there, we arrived. We're part of that. We're here with you, and we've been in there in our lives, and we understand that if you're busy and there's activity, that doesn't mean you're doing something. Just planning and planning and planning. At some point, you have to step into it, because it's not good. All your ducks are never going to be in a row.
Yeah.
So
I want to hear yours.
So this one's by Tony Robbins.
That's the one I said.
No, you said. Oh, that's right. Never mind. So the man. This is Muhammad Ali, the greatest ever. boxer. The man who has no imagination has no wings. It starts here. It starts with a thought. It starts with an idea.
I just love the thought of like a macho guy like talking about imagination. It's so awesome.
Well, you look how creative that guy was in the ring. He did things in there that people never did.
We should talk about creativity in sports at some point, because it can be in so many different things, and that's what we try to address all the time.
Can you write that down? Because every time we say we're going to do something on this podcast,
I write down a lot.
Okay.
writing it down. But yeah, that's awesome.
This is not about us today. We have a gentleman on here today with us who came very, very far away from just next door.
From somewhere that tends to interrupt our podcasts on Fridays. It is so loud.
We can measure.
It sounds like an earthquake.
We can measure in the Richter scale when when those planes come on here. We're like,
yeah, you can. It's just this like. It sounds like an alien.
No, that's kind of. So we're like, okay, maybe we should pause.
Yeah, and we try not to, because we always say we don't edit. We're candid, but sometimes.
But we love it.
Man.
When they had the air show, so we're next to the Dover Air Force Base, so we are going to be. One thing I want to say before that, when the air show was here, it was fantastic because those Blue Angels were literally right above us, so I didn't have to go anywhere. Just right here, we didn't have to go into So we have a gentleman here. His name is Matt Husemann, Colonel Matt Husemann. I want to do a quick story about this, and I said it to him before we started, but I want the audience to hear about this. How do we have a colonel in the Air Force on here? Well, we have a man who is incredibly creative. He's a leader. He, to lead an organization so big, and one of the biggest Air Force bases in the United States, or any Air Force base for that matter, is something to be said. You don't do that by accident. There's a lot of effort and that goes into that, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, a lot of perseverance. And that's something that's indicative of the people we want to talk to inspire and empower individuals to do that. So he is a person I saw, I knew of him, and I saw a presentation he did to about 400 people. It's called the State of the Base Breakfast that they have every year. The Chamber of Commerce that I'm part of puts this together. And the whole time he spoke about the airmen, the people, his team, what they did, their successes. He celebrated them. It was never about him. And I connected with that because I'm by far not perfect, obviously, but I connect with men and people who are heart focused, and they lead their hearts, but they also feel and they understand. And I connected with this guy, and I said, Meghan, we got to break our rules and have somebody in here that can help and inspire the folks that we talk to. So that's a long-winded introduction, but to tell you a little bit about him, I have to read this because there's a lot going on here. Colonel Matt Husemann is the commander of the 436th Airlift Wing at Dover Air Force Base. He is a command pilot with more than 3,000 hours, and that's really cool. Flight. Nice. We're going to talk about that. He is a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, Squadron Officer School. Right? Am I on stolen track? Okay. He has served a variety of commands. Obviously, you have to if you're now wing commander, and staff positions throughout his career, including tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's highly decorated. For me, he's a role model for his airmen. They love him. He's also a source of inspiration for his community, and he's a proud American, dedicated patriot, and a father of 2 young ladies and a husband. That's the most important part of all this, and I know he would tell me that for sure. So without further ado, Colonel Matt Husemann. How's that for an introduction?
Good. Really good.
So you got the L in the right there, and it's
they're
a little
those
funky.
Weird twisty.
I know they're really twisty ones, and I can guide you because I was actually messing up with those myself. There you go.
There we go.
So it's not
all right.
Awesome.
Pilot proof.
So I want you to hear what we put on right when we walked in. So ready?
Very nice.
Our guests can't hear it till they put the earphones.
They don't hear that. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It is awesome to be here. It's funny when folks introduce and go through that. It's kind of telling in a way that I'm old, but because in the Air Force, those things it's not really at all about me, and it's kind of what you were talking about, Javier. All that stuff is because of amazing airmen that are out there and what they do. There are no accolades in that are about me. And our family, the only thing that, just like you talked about, I am the father of 2 girls. They're great. And Claire and Audrey are, they're at school right now and doing their thing and growing up. And, and they look up to people like Meghan, that it's awesome to be able to be an inspiring entrepreneur as they're out there doing things and taking care of it. And so, Javier, just like you said, I love being a husband, love being a father, and being able to work for airmen is an awesome thing. And so thanks for the introduction. Thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We're excited.
Yeah.
There's so much. Are you ready? There's no seatbelts. We should get you.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Meghan, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, so what I always say to our guests is, and this actually works for me a lot because we kind of go back and forth with me bringing someone that I know and him bringing someone that he knows. So in a lot of situations, one of us doesn't know the guest, which is even better because neither does our listeners most of the time. So we just want you to tell us about yourself to someone who has no idea.
Okay.
And just kind of reiterate what he said, but like in your own way, and just tell us about yourself.
Yeah, no, perfect. I'm from Dayton, Ohio originally, a small town actually south of that called Kettering, Ohio. It's a suburb. That's where I grew up for most of my life. My parents were great. My dad was an inspiration as a leader. He was a city manager there. A really cool job of what he does, which is why I really enjoy getting to talk to folks here at Dover and spend time like with the mayor and some folks like that, because that's kind of how I grew up doing things. And then I went off to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and I enjoyed it. And I tell airmen that they ask me, like, well, why'd you join the Air Force? What is it that you did, and why'd that happen? Well, there's this movie that came out back in the 80s. I'll just say that, and then I won't say how old I was. But it came out in the 80s, and I know it's a Navy movie, and it's Top Gun, and the new one out, Maverick, has been that sequel. But when you think of Top Gun, I was sitting there with my uncle, who at that time was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to fly airplanes. And he's like, well, Matt, you need to go to the United States Air Force Academy. There's no doubt that that's the place for you. And I was like, okay. So that got me to the academy, and that's why I joined the Air Force. But I flew after the Air Force Academy and started flying training planes, and then they sent me here to the C5. And Sarah and I, we loved it. We get here to Delaware, and as you're driving up, and probably much like you were when you came to DSU, you're like, man, this is the East Coast, but wait a minute, where are we? They're farm fields.
Right. Where's the ocean?
Where is this, right? You're sitting there thinking about it, and so my wife and I kept driving, and we finally get here in Dover, and I'm like, wow. And she's from New Mexico, so you want to talk about the middle of nowhere, like she's used to that.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly. And then we get here, and we just fell in love with Delaware. And especially Dover, because you can be anywhere from it. And so when we got here, though, I'll say this, and this goes to your point of who I am and why I enjoy what I do. I thought I wanted to fly airplanes, and I thought that was the goal for what I wanted to do with my Air Force career. And then I got to Dover, and I sat with a guy named Master Sergeant Greg Isbell, and he was a flight engineer in the back, and he made a difference in my life and showed me that what this world is about for flying and networking is about the network and the people and who you work for and how you do that. And when I say who you work for, we work for airmen. That's what we do. And being able to make their lives better and invest in others is important. And my parents taught me that growing up. And I think that a lot of times it needs I won't call a wake up call, but it did for me. And it was about 2002 to 2003 where I joined this team here at Dover Air Force Base. And since then, it's just been an awesome ride of being able to learn how to better take care of airmen and take care of people, and especially their families. And that's what we do, and inspire them to do amazing things, because they really go out and do amazing things. It's nothing that I do.
I love that. Wow.
That's awesome. Do you still currently fly, to reiterate what you're saying?
I do.
Okay. Because you were like...
I don't fly as much, probably as I would like, but I do fly, and it's good to get out there and slip the Shirley Bonds of Earth and have a little bit of fun. Cool. So it's a blast.
You had me at fly.
Yeah. No, it's great when your office moves. It's really cool.
It's fantastic.
It's really cool.
Well, it does move here too.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sometimes. And Top Gun is, gosh, I saw that when I was 15 in the movie theater with Paige Teemanson.
Oh.
I don't know where she's doing these days, but that was one of my first dates, and that's a sophomore in high school. So that was incredible.
That's cool.
I just dated myself.
That's okay. I saw it in a basement, so it's good. It's good.
So what should we call you then?
Yeah,
Matt is great.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, good to have you, Matt. It's awesome. We're gonna do some deep dives.
Okay.
Some really cool stuff. And that's a sinister laugh, isn't it?
No, you're good.
It should be a word.
It's good. It is all
So
good.
we're talking about military leadership as well as entrepreneurship and all that stuff. But we want to get to know the man,
The Matt.
the Matt,
That's
and
scary.
then we'll get to know the colonel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so let's dive, because then they listen to the colonel once they know the Matt. Do you understand?
I understand.
All right. So I know the answers a little bit about this, but they don't. So what's your favorite type of coffee?
So
It's serious stuff here.
I don't really probably have a favorite. I love going on base. We have a little coffee joint called Mugs, and I go there, and just a great team there. And so I will probably say I enjoy the experience of getting the coffee more than I
feel
it's about
get that
the
serotonin.
coffee. Yeah, there you go.
Just from getting it.
So no, but I drink mainly black coffee.
Okay.
I mean,
Do you have a type though? Like I love black coffee, but Colombian.
Let's see.
Dark
so
roasts?
I had an espresso Vavita or Vavita. I don't know.
Okay.
It's got like B12 in it or something. So yeah.
I mean, I guess
drink
that's
that.
fitting for a pilot colonel to just straight up black coffee. I mean, that's kind of
Oh, it
thing,
fits.
Now, I don't feel very masculine right now because I'm like, oh yeah, I like a cold brew with a little bit of sugar vanilla.
But you're a graphic designer.
You're good. Don't
makes
worry.
sense. Like it's graphic
I'm pretty
designer.
secure in my masculinity.
You
to have
paint
that.
like.
It's a good point.
I bring my French press with me when I fly. It's okay. It's okay. We do, and I'll throw any sort of
Necessity
coffee
in the
in it.
suitcase.
So yeah, no, I wouldn't say I have like a Colombian. I drink them all, and
Right,
so
I gotcha.
pretty much.
I love it.
There's because we're coffee aficionados, so it's a big deal. It's part of our culture. I'm
Well,
Puerto
instead
Rican.
of breaking bread, we
break
break
coffee,
beans.
break beans, crunch beans.
Well said.
Yeah, that's just how I bond with people. Like
Yeah.
even when I used to be a wedding photographer, and when I would meet with the wedding clients, I just like taking them out for coffee. It's just, and it's easier when you're not chewing and stuff as well.
Like, oh,
but I am always mindful of my breath.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
And I'm mindful
one
of my
thing you get.
projectiles. Have the face shield.
Yeah.
Now, guys do this, Megan. I mean, you have a fiance who I forgave because he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. This is not a good thing. It didn't.
But
wasn't a good start.
we're not football watchers.
No,
we're
I know,
hockey
I know.
watchers.
But he's a New York Rangers fan.
Okay.
So
I'm also a New York Rangers.
you are now, but you are indoctrinated. But the reason I say this is because judge is a hard word, but we kind of classify guys do about the teams and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're that person.
Mm-hmm.
You're like the Cowboys, but you've never been to that kind. And they're just, So let's start from the top. Favorite sport, hot seat.
Favorite sport
You gotta pick one.
to watch or play.
Okay, that's fair. One if it's
Okay, so to watch, I love watching football and I love playing basketball.
okay, awesome. You're lefty or right?
I'm a right-handed.
Okay. Sports team.
Yeah, so I was you said you like watching football, so what's
I
your
do.
favorite
So
sports team?
my favorite sports team is I like watching college football a lot, and so Ohio State Buckeyes and the Air Force Falcons are it, and they're two totally different teams in the way in which they play.
They do.
So they bring a different strategy to the table, and you can kind of talk through it.
a lot of people either pick college or
Right,
is it called professional outside of college?
Yeah, NFL professional. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I like hockey because it's fights.
Yeah,
And it's allowed
Okay.
as long as you don't hit the ice.
Have you ever
It's
watched
like-
college hockey? Been to a college
No, I
hockey game?
haven't.
Oh, it's
We have
Yeah,
so I
fun.
live right next to the ice skating rink in Harrington,
Harrington.
so we watch the games there.
okay. Okay. The Delaware.
This is their last year though.
Destroyers. Yeah, they're leaving.
Yeah. But I love hockey.
That's cool.
What's interesting about what you just said, you talk about Ohio, and I texted you yesterday, and I'm like, I am not a Michigan fan, so I just wanted you to know that.
Appreciate that.
Right? From a college standpoint, I tend to gravitate to Texas A&M.
Okay.
My grandfather went there, and my aunt. I'd been there one time to visit, but it seems like my whole life that's the team that people were always following and stuff. So that's.
Would you say that Top Gun's your favorite movie because of it getting you kind of interested in?
I think so, and it did. It got me interested in flying and a little bit of that lifestyle. I also will look at Top Gun, and then there's a movie Hoosiers, which is again dating myself a little bit, but the way in which a coach can influence people and how they have a conversation how they can love. And I think that one of the greatest quotes in Hoosiers is at the end where he's like, "I love you guys." And so that's a tough thing to talk through. And when you're building a team, it's pretty awesome. And so those are probably my top two as a whole. And I grew up watching them and still to this day watch them. And so it's cool. Fun.
It's a really good movie. You haven't seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Gene Hackman, his coach.
Yeah. And he learns from mistakes. That's I think one of the things that's kind of crazy. He learns from a past that may or may not be the one that you thought would be when you see this great coach.
So it's a basketball movie based in the 50s.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I'll definitely add that to my watch list. I literally have it in my notes app. Like when I think of a movie that I've already seen, but I want to watch it again, I have to write it down. so because then I'll be like, oh, what was that movie I wanted to rewatch? Yeah, that's how my brain works.
So, the last question before we shift, everybody knows that I wear a different shirt in every episode. So I worn this one in the first episode we ever did, but it's fitting.
Yes.
I wrote this one. Somebody gave me this. I'll let that person. So my question to Matt is, who's your favorite daughter?
Oh, that's good. That's good. The one that's not asking for money, I don't know.
That's a good
answer. So Claire and Audrey are my two girls, and they are awesome.
I don't expect you to answer that.
No, you're good.
You could, talk about them real quick.
Yes. No. I love bragging on them. They're great. I have a 17 and a 15-year-old. They both go to Caesar Rodney right now. My wife Sarah teaches there at Caesar Rodney. And so it's really cool to have them, but they both are very interested in volleyball. That's what they're doing right now, and figuring out what's next. Colleges and type discussion. They're great. We have a good banter, and I think we were talking about that beforehand. My oldest Claire, she will definitely say she's the favorite daughter, and she doesn't lack for that in her. And she is humble, but that is kind of her mantra, and we can go back and forth and have a good time. And Audrey just cares about everyone, and it's really cool to watch her do that in the way in which she can relate to all ages and have a good time with that, and teach them what it is to love on other people and take care of them. And so it's cool to watch both of them do that and how they grow up, and they're really much more like my wife Sarah than they are me. They're super caring and compassionate like she is.
That's and you cool. said Sarah coached volleyball.
She does.
So they kind of found that through her.
They did.
That's cool.
They did. They kind of came back to it. Claire danced a little bit as a kid, and Audrey kind of played basketball and volleyball. And then when we were in Germany, they really went full in on volleyball, and they play quite a bit.
That's
and
awesome.
And their hard work and the work ethic that you see come through, I think that's the thing I'm proud of both of them for the most is awesome. The way they work at things.
Yeah, that's cool. I knew he was going to be cool.
Well, I don't know about that.
No, we already knew that. Okay, so we wanted to start in that. We're gonna. I want to now tap into our noggins here, into the creative things. So we're gonna challenge you a little bit.
All right.
Don't get nervous. It's all good.
Don't worry.
It's all good. Here's a question that's thought-provoking, and let's see where this goes. How do you? I know that you at the Air Force Base, there's a lot of innovation. A lot of things that are happening. That's not always the case in every single base and different things. It's just something that you guys focus on. How do you balance the need for discipline and order with the need for creativity and imagination? You got work to do. You got orders. You got things. But also, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And a lot of times when you sit down and think about the military, right, it's hierarchical, and everybody thinks it's all stacked up like this. And we can talk a little bit of what we try and do to break down those barriers, right? It's always when you talk about things when it comes to creativity or imagination or any part of innovation, it's how do you break down that barrier to getting you through it? You kind of talked about it in the pre-brief there. It's, paralysis by analysis discussion. How does that work? How do you do that? And how do you actually get going? So how do you do that in the military when it is like, when it comes down to it, the young airman that's been in here and they're 19 years old, I need you to follow that book, and I need you to go fix the airplane. And when, you're going to go step 1 through step 10 and figure out what that is. Where it comes in and the innovative side of it is sometimes the tools that you need to use. There may be a better tool that can save you minutes, hours, things like that. And so how do you do that? How do you look at the tools that are inside that checklist that is very disciplined that you've got to follow? Why? Because it's just like fixing your car. I mean, an airplane's about the same thing. It's just a little bit bigger and sometimes more complicated in certain parts. But how do you go about doing that, and how do you take that action? And so we encourage them, and it's not so much that you depart from the knowledge base of that book, but you expand upon it, right? It's going through those steps, but understanding that if you've done those steps 1,000 times, okay, good. You're going through them. Now, where is it that we're missing something, and can we change something based on your knowledge? And then when you want to bring that innovation out, because like you said, a lot of times it's a matter of time. And do you have time to be able to be innovative? And so what we have is we have Bedrock, and Bedrock is our innovation lab. It's called a spark cell is what we call it in the Air Force. And most bases have a spark cell. Ours, we love it. Bedrock is a very cool place to go. We try and model it a little after, a Google or some sort of, area where you can come and think. And so if folks get time, they do that. If they don't have time, what we love for them to do is just drop an idea by. Okay. And they'll just stop by Bedrock, and they can say, hey, we're working on this project. This is kind of the little background, but I don't have a lot of time to talk about it. Here's what I got. And then Bedrock will take that, and we have interns at Bedrock, and then we have a leadership team at Bedrock. And all of them together will take it and then figure out what it is, and then work back with that airman and try and figure out how they can go forward with a project. Okay. And sometimes it seems weird. The one I used at the state of the base was it looks like a pair of pinchers, but the pair of pinchers open backwards. And what that does is it helps them remove and I'm not going to use this terminology correctly because I'm just a big pilot. I'm not a maintainer. Like that's all it is. Flying an airplane's pretty easy. Trees get bigger and trees get smaller depending on how you look at it. And when you talk about maintenance, though, these clippers, what they do is they remove a hold on a particular part of the airplane. And that normally, to remove those two clasps on the part of the airplane, takes like 10 minutes. But with these clippers, it takes about 5 seconds. Okay. Wow. And when you have to remove multiple ones of these, and you look at airplanes, it's a huge amount of time.
Right, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So it's easy.
It sounds like that communication is so important. Like, that, and then I keep hearing time. Like, so is time management very prioritized in your job field?
It is. I mean, time is the thing that is the most important thing to airmen, because when you talk about that, and I use airmen, big A airmen, anybody that wears a uniform, doesn't wear uniforms as a civilian, anybody that works at the base, our total force, so that's the guard and the reserve, anybody out there, time is important, because when we use time, whether that's for somebody, if they have to go be away from their family, we want to maximize that time to get the most amount of, I'm going to use the word lethality out of them, right? To the most amount of going forward with our mission. And as we do that, it's important that we don't waste their time. And so we do. Many people work 12-hour shifts, and they constantly do that for hours or for days upon end. And so to do that and be able to find them more time in their schedule so that they can innovate, so that they can think, so that they can take time back with their family, that's the important thing for us. And so it's all about the bandwidth that they have.
Yeah.
One thing that's stood out to me, you said it without saying it, but it's dangerous in corporate America or in any place for people. That's the machine.
Oh, I was like, what's happening?
That's not a C5. That's is the danger in, hey, that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah. Should we unplug it?
No, it's just rinsing.
Oh, okay.
It's almost done.
Sorry, guys.
But you guys, yes, this is the way it is until we find a better way to do it. But that you have to prove and test that better way. And once it's proven, then we implement it. And then if that shaves a minute or even a second here and there times so many days, that's a huge deal.
It's awesome. With time management, do you are you more of like a night owl, or do you wake up really early?
So I wake up fairly early, maintaining a schedule. I wouldn't say I'm one or the other. I'll go either. It just depends. And as a leader, it's important to know that we work 24 hours a day for, not me, but the base itself works 24 hours a day. And so what's going on the base? And there's sometimes where you need to go out at 3:00 in the morning and you need to tell an airman, hey, thanks. And that's it. And then, you're not checking up on them. You're not wondering what they're doing. You just need to go and say thanks. And presence will equal that priority. And that's an important piece. But I wouldn't say I do wake up early, mainly because my kids and everybody are out of the house by 6:40 in the morning to get to school.
Yeah,
so
but
it's good.
Early.
So I get up about 5:30.
Oh, you're a 5:30 club?
I'm not like early, like 4:30. There are a lot of folks that do. So
I had a sunrise session.
Oh, really?
I texted her something. I didn't expect a response. And then I'm like, what are you doing up? You got, and
I was like, I'm at the beach.
Oh, wow.
And it was like 4:45 a.m.
Doing a sunrise session with a client.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's so nice you have the whole day ahead of you when you're done. We were done at 7:30. I was like, man, I wish everyone did sunrise.
Yeah, I joined the 5 a.m. club about a year ago.
Okay.
I think it was more my physiology. But I started realizing my rhythms. So then I'm like more productive now in the mornings than I in the evenings. So then I gave into that instead of fighting it. And so I like getting up like that. It's nice.
I'm definitely more productive in the morning. And I even say that it's great to have, if I have a meeting, like let's put a hard meeting in the morning.
Okay.
I'll be thinking more.
Right. And then it sets you off in a good place. And, to start before the hand grenades come in and start blowing. You ever seen it? There's little ones in battle, but in business, you have your plans. Here's my to-do. And then 9:30, and then the next one, and then it's like 5, 6 o'clock, and you'll blink, and like, what just happened to the day? We're literally have been cleaning up the mess from the hand grenades.
And then you got like time changes too, which can throw you off.
Oh, yeah.
Sun's setting really early. But I had a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So as entrepreneurs, we face a lot of like high stress situations, and I'm sure you do as well. So as a military leader, how do you personally handle those situations? And if you had any advice for anyone listening who like maybe something that you've noticed that helps you in those situations, like.
So it's. The great thing about high stress situations for us in the military is it's very infrequent that it's by ourselves. So you have a team with you most of the time. Also, things that happen quickly, right? So there's a lot of things depending on where we are, right? Now, I'll take this out of a combat environment. Let's not put it into that because that brings a different side of a meeting of stress. But just a day-to-day operation and something that you talk about with like a business and a leadership kind of perspective is sometimes you really, and a lot of times you need to relax for a half second. So breathe through your nose for once or twice and out through your mouth and just kind of breathe. Because if you're listening closely and before you react to something and you're actually paying attention to what's going on and you're listening and having a conversation, then you need your mind a half second to process it. And if you give yourself a half second to process it, probably is the outcome of that is going to be better than if you react quickly, because reacting quickly is probably going to be an emotional response, which sometimes as a leader, you're trying to get, right? You're trying to get an emotional response. You're trying to pull on emotions and quote unquote tug on heartstrings, right? But as a whole overarching goal, the goal is to be able to remain calm. It's that duck on the water discussion. You may be paddling and inside your head, there's 1,000 things going on that you're trying to figure out, but you need to look cool, calm, and collected. And it's not a show. It's really to make sure that the situation that you're in goes well, and that the best outcome coming out of that is where it needed to go, vice having some reaction. And so I'm not a businessman by trade, but I think that same leadership principle would apply to just being calm. And you all talked about it before when you were talking about social media, and you have to answer timely. But you said at one point that you set a time, right? You're in a 24-hour cycle and you answer at this time.
Those boundaries
almost
are really
right. And so you constantly do that. And that predictability is important, and not just for a client, but also for a community of folks to understand that this is going to be a predictable piece. Now, sometimes in leadership, it's also good to be unpredictable when you need to make a point. I call that keeping your gunpowder dry.
What's the word?
That's going to get a mic
predictable.
drop.
Don't be too predictable.
Right.
I love that.
Right. You've got to be able to keep a little bit, because if they think they always know how you're going to react, then they may take that for granted and become complacent, and you want to fight against complacency.
Okay, there's so much
Sorry.
there. That's fantastic.
No,
it's like, gosh, we could dive in there.
And even I didn't even think like in a high stress situation as like a solo entrepreneur without a team, like that's still good advice. But then when you also have like a whole team that's going to respond to how you respond, you almost have to like not fake it, but kind of just deal with that inner stress, because they're going to react to how you react.
I noticed that early here, because if I indirectly control the
makes a difference.
The climate, like, and so You know, if you had a rough morning or something, you're not going to take a deep breath and walk in and just put the smile, because they sense that that tension with me. So that sets them off. So good point. And something you do that I know is you collaborate with a lot of people. So you're alone in your business because you're one person, but you're not lonely. You do connect, and you're part of communities, and you have other business owners who are young ladies who are in your same spot. Actually, there was an episode we did. Yeah. They really. Yeah,
I don't have a staff, but I work with a lot of people. I've like really cherished that human connection. You say that so much. I just am very impressed with how you are constantly coming back to that, love and relationship, and not even talking about like the nitty gritty. It's like that's what it comes down to, and that's so important.
It is.
And people just don't think about that.
No, and it has to come. It can't come from here. It has to come from here for it to be true and to be lasting. I know that's deep, but at the same time, in anything we do, that's the measurement. That's the really. Is my heart in here in this? So thank you for sharing your heart, because that's really, really important. Man, I cannot wait to. There's so many in what you just said before in that last 5 minutes. It's I'm gonna listen. I always have just like
plain questions.
Oh, you're good.
It's like incredible
so
question.
Cool.
That's good.
So I have terrible eyesight. So what's the requirements? Like, as far as, are you allowed to have glasses and fly a plane? I always wonder that.
You are. It has to be correctable to 2020, and so it depends on how bad they are.
Yeah.
But you can also get the surgeries now, and so there's different ways.
Surgeries, those scare me.
They do.
If you notice, people who do those surgeries wear glasses, and it's like they don't even want them. It's a little scary.
No, it's
pretty attentive, Megan.
It's good, but no, there's ways to get there.
Cool. I was just wondering. I haven't seen a pilot with glasses in a bit. I've been at the airport a lot lately just for trips, and it's always, it reminds me of Catch Me If You Can. It's like one of my favorite movies. When he's faking being a pilot, but it's so weird seeing, I know like this is different than military, but pilots, like, I just always look and see if they're wearing glasses, because I'm just like,
well, here's one that's similar to that. I tell in different situations, if I'm in an airplane, commercial airplane, I look at the flight attendants. If they're calm and there's all kinds of shaking, I'm calm. When I see them panic, that's when I should panic, because they've done so many of these things.
Yeah, I don't stress unless the pilot's telling me something's wrong. Everything's fine.
Everyone in a good place. So, all right. So let me ask him.
You can have some fun with that, by the way.
Yeah.
Too.
With what?
Oh, as a pilot. I used to, when you're traveling with my wife when we were younger, and the plane would do something, I'd tense up, right? And she's like, "What?
What? You're tensing up."
And I'm like, "Oh, it's really nothing." So it's nothing.
Yeah, because she's looking at you.
She's paying complete attention.
How was that feeling of the first time you flew like a giant plane? Like, was it terrifying or exciting?
Oh my gosh, because it's different than simulators.
So
now you're there.
Did you how does that work? Are you flying multiple people, or is it more like things?
So we have multiple. So within, I'll just use the C5 for instance. The C7, both the C5 and the C17. It's two pilots in the seat, and so you have a partner, and usually it's an instructor when you're first young and you're first flying, and so they're teaching you how to do it. And then in the C5, you also have a flight engineer that sits behind you, and then you in both airplanes you have what's called a load master, and the load master is actually the business end of the airplane, if you talk about that. But how do you feel flying the airplane? It's inspiring. And when you go from, you're flying smaller airplanes, which you all have seen around, and they're, we'll call them about 5 to 10 feet off the ground is where you sit, somewhere in that realm. And then you are 40 feet off the ground where you sit. Yeah, that's a whole different ball game. And the power that's behind it is really cool. And when you throw up the throttles, it's like sitting in your car for the first time and you press the gas maybe a little bit too much. You're like, whoa, okay, here we go. We're going. And so on the ground, you get that feel. In the air, you don't. You really don't feel the difference between the speeds. But the airplane's good. I relate the two. One's like a Corvette. The C-17 is kind of like a Corvette, very powerful, very maneuverable, very cool. And then the C5 is kind of the Cadillac version of the Corvette, with about the same power in the engines, but it likes to drive a little bit smoother. It likes to roll a little bit, but when it needs to be maneuverable, it's maneuverable. And
that's cool. That's cool.
They're a lot of fun. But no, flying big airplanes is a lot of fun. Enjoyed it, and it's really about that crew aspect because you're not by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've flown something before.
Oh yeah,
yeah, the Millennium Falcon at Disney.
Oh, very nice.
So have I. I got pilot.
I got a pilot. They get, you go online. They
get you the win.
You get, but you randomly. Look, this is my mother calling.
Oh, nice.
Just say hi to Abu.
Sure thing.
Yeah, hold on a second.
She's in Greece.
Hello. Hey, mommy.
She's in Greece.
Hey, mommy. Hey, it's in English. We're recording okay, mommy. We're recording an episode of the podcast. Say hello to Meghan.
Hello, Meghan, darling baby.
Hi, I miss you.
I'm calling because we are gonna be going at sea for all the day tomorrow. So I wanted just to say hi that we're good.
Okay.
Tomorrow we'll be at sea all day, and Mimi, I got you a beautiful Volkswagen from Greece.
You did? Oh, I'm so excited.
See, baby girl.
Oh, thank you.
Baby girl. I always find things for you.
Oh,
I can't wait.
well, we're
I told the lady in the store, I said, my granddaughter is a hippie. I'm going to.
This is Mamita. So you're just going to be an episode very soon. Mom, we have a.
Oh my God.
Mommy, we have a Colonel Husemann from the Air Force Base here. Say hello to him.
Aye, sir.
Have fun tomorrow. That's awesome. Going to sea. That is cool.
Yeah, we have been at sea for 7 days, but tomorrow is all sea until we get to Venice on Sunday.
Awesome. Well, Mommy, I love you.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
That's okay.
you have permission to interrupt me anytime. I love you, Mommy. I'll talk to you soon.
Love
Bye.
you all, guys.
Bye.
That was not planned.
She said, said, my granddaughter's a hippie.
I wonder if they know what that is in Greece. Like,
Yeah,
is that an understood
they're
term?
probably hard judging me.
No, that's so funny. But I want to talk about the Millennium Falcon before I got rudely interrupted.
Yeah.
It's messing.
You're good.
We got her in.
No, so
In the podcast, we were saying, like, I
we
hope
got her in the podcast. That she's calling with WhatsApp because the cell phone doesn't work from over there. So, but they give you like a pilot. You get a pilot, you get the gunner, and you get the navigator. So, and then this is simulated. So you get two pilots. One goes up and down. The one goes left to right. The other, he just hits the buttons and fires. And the other guy just nothing happens, but they just hit blinky. First time we went, I had Grace. At the time she was 11. We had a few others in my family, and she gets the pilot. This is my dream. I'm a giver as a father, but in this case, that's non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. So I gave her. I said, "Give me that."
I was gonna say,
and I got it to be the pilot of the Millennium Falcon.
If you get the pilot as an adult, they kind of like assume you're gonna give it to whatever. Kids
No,
I'm the pilot.
No,
they're just gonna crash it, and then it ruins the whole ride.
Exactly, because you can't crash it. So.
That's right.
Okay. So
moral of the story: don't let him fly a plane.
Okay. We can work on that.
Right. We're gonna. Gosh, time is flying. We want to shift to a few fun Q&As that we're going to give you. That's just 3 questions. Hopefully, we'll stomp you.
Okay.
But I don't think we will. But it's just we're going to go into some fun places. So, Meghan, why don't you do the first one?
So
and see what happens.
This one's really cool. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose? Do you have anyone that you kind of? They can be
alive or dead.
Past.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will bring them back.
We'll bring them back. They'll be cleaned up.
No, I think Abraham Lincoln would be really cool to sit down and think, hey, one, what was your drive all the time? Because it constantly was a brutal time in our history. But being able to sit and listen to him and just if there's a book, Lincoln on Leadership, right? And it's short snippets type thing. But to be able to have coffee and sit down with him. Wow. And talk through the monumental things that were going on in our country at that time, and that way that we're able to do things, that would be way cool. Yeah. And just to see him and for a half second pick his brain, that'd be awesome.
I think that's who Michael Faber said as well. Our first
he did
guest.
say that too. Yeah.
Good choice.
And the thing is the amount of pressure that man was under by all directions. I know that all presidents are, but this is a unique place in history. That pivotal moment. That any decision he made steered it a certain direction. We could be a completely different country. We would be if it wasn't for him. I mean, maybe we probably wouldn't like where it is.
No, 100%.
So, right. So that's awesome. All right. So if you had to write a book, what would that book be about? Right?
If I had to write a book, that no one is choosing me to write a book right now. I'll tell you that.
There's so many possible puns as a pilot. So many good names.
What would you call it?
We love puns.
I was trying to think of funny ones.
Well, I'm probably not all that funny when it comes down to that. If I had to write a book, it would be, it's kind of funny. You talk about, you have 3 daughters. I think it'd be something with that is father and daughters type discussion, and father and daughters, but that part. But I think more of the networking discussion and how we take care of airmen. And so I think it would be remember who you work for might be the title of the book, and that's kind of it's not a pun. I apologize.
I feel like Tony Robbins would be like,
remember who
you're the pilot of your life.
There you go.
Like that's it. Because we talked about Tony Robbins.
You can soar or you can crash.
Whenever I think of Tony Robbins, I just think of Shallow Hal.
I remember that. Okay.
Because that's where I knew, that's how I got introduced to Tony Robbins.
And he's got those huge hands in the elevator. He's like, be gone. He snaps in. You ever seen that Shallow Hal?
I have seen Shallow Hal. Yeah.
Yeah, it did that movie did the opposite of what they were trying to do, unfortunately.
I think that movie we canceled if it came out today.
No, absolutely not. But we love Jack Black.
Yeah, it is. No, that's a really cool book. Awesome. Remember who you work for. I love that. That's powerful, man. Gosh.
Thanks.
Have your daughters gotten to watch you fly?
No, they haven't. So in the military, we have something that's called a Finney flight, and it's your final flight. Usually it's more celebrated as you get older because you never know when that last one will be for the Air Force, right? Just depending on where your career goes. But they have been able to marshal me in. So stand at the front with the wands and marshal in the airplane. They've done that I think once. They've done that. And so that's what they've done. I've taken them in the simulator and they think it's cool. And they have fun with that, but no, they haven't been able to watch me per se fly. No, you're good.
But now my head it always goes there, Megan. But the movie Airplane.
Yes.
Remember the guy's like
that
this.
is the weirdest.
It's like,
movie
hey,
I've
and some guy
ever
walks. He goes, hey, where's the bathroom? He goes, and the plane goes
turns. Well, you follow him, right? You got to follow him. So.
Or when it landed and it kept going because the landing gear was off, so he kept sliding. And it's like flight 452 and gate 17, gate 18, 19, 20.
They start running.
That's so funny.
I gotta watch. That's one of those movies that you remember it and it's funny, but then you watch it again and I'm like, that's not.
No. That movie is such a Halloween movie. It's a weird movie.
That's slapstick. In our day, they had those types of movies all the time.
But so our last question, you mentioned I'm not really, I couldn't see myself as a businessman, but if you were to start one, it could be literally anything. What would you?
Yeah.
What would I start a business as? So I would probably look, I really enjoy sports. So something to do with sports. At this point in my life, golf is probably the thing that I won't say I'm great at, but it's nice to get out and do.
Nice.
But a business focus on that. Oh man, you talk about wanting to stump me. You did.
Mini golf course would be sick.
Oh, there you go.
It could be like conquering the windmill.
Yes. And
because that one is,
and it is a difficult. A business. A business. I don't know. I would have to probably turn to my wife for some good ideas and be her support.
Daughters, ask them.
Oh yes.
We'll see what they say.
No. Yeah.
So we stomped them, Megan.
You definitely got me on that one. I'm like, what business? Yeah.
It's because he has so many ideas. He just
No, it is funny you say creativity versus artistic. I'm definitely not artistic, and business is probably not something I've looked at as a whole. But yeah,
I have a good feeling that if he had a business, it would do well.
Oh yeah.
Well, it depends. That's all about, just like you talked about, you may be a solo business owner, but the network around it. And so I think here in Delaware, that would be that would be something that, the network here is strong.
It is strong. It is very strong.
So
it's
many
awesome.
small businesses, and we all know each other.
And it's very unique and you've been around in different parts of the country. I've lived in the Gulf Coast of Florida, South Florida, grew up in Northern Virginia, DC, beautiful areas, hugely populated. This area in the peninsula, especially in central Delaware, in this part, it's very unique in the business. It's you don't see that anywhere in a lot of places in the country. It's very tight, very hyper local, very loyal, and you see that because you're part of the Chamber of Commerce. We see you every month, and how active and people are, and that's how we thrive because we live here. So we want to invest in the people in here. That's something I love about you, that you're here for a short time. By the time you're here, this is your home. So you invested in where you were, and that's really cool.
No, 100%. Yeah. I think I got a half second to think, right? So the volleyball.
Here we go.
So here's your business discussion. There's a place up north that does indoor volleyball and being able to coach volleyball. Not me, but my wife. We do a volleyball business down here. You have the turf fields down here, but you could do an indoor one that you could offer basketball and volleyball over the
rent some of the courts and have
and be able to have a team and a club and stuff like that. So maybe that's a business mindset in that sense. But
and have like a recreation area because the kids, the littles are going to be there while they're there, and they can have food, and that's a really cool idea.
They need to add that. Yeah,
it's really cool. So we're wrapping it up. What's next for Matt Husemann?
Oh, so
there's a softball at the end.
There you go. No, it's great. So my family and I get to move to the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, where I did spend 4 years there. I was much younger, had more hair, but we're going back there, and I'll be the vice superintendent of the Air Force Academy. Now, what that does, I'm not exactly sure yet. And the great thing about the jobs that we get to do in the Air Force, I don't need to really look at that yet until I get there. So it's awesome. And so I'll, obviously having been a student at the Air Force Academy, I knew that there was this superintendent, and the superintendent's a 3-star general. And they run the whole entire academy as a whole. And so I'll be General Clark's number 2, and we'll see what he wants me to do and how he wants me to go about it. But I know it'll all come back to it's a beautiful location. If you've ever been out to Colorado and specifically to the Air Force Academy, it's sitting at the foothills of the Rockies. It is gorgeous. And so I'm excited for that, excited for my family because they didn't get to experience that, some years ago with me. So excited to take them back there.
And to see hills.
Hills.
It
more
is.
Than that.
You gotta watch those when you're flying.
Yes.
Around here, it's just
over there by Blue Hand, there's that mound.
It's man-made.
Yeah,
right?
I went by yesterday with my daughter, my youngest. I was, look, that's Mount Dover. That's the highest peak in.
It is. It is. So no, we're excited to go out and do that.
It's a full circle for you.
It is. It is a whole. 23 years later, I'll return to the academy. And
so the end of your career will be.
We'll see. We'll see what the future holds. That's a lot of that's up to God, and it's all up to God, and it's up to the Air Force of what they want to do. And so we'll see where that goes. We're excited to go serve and to take care of. There, it's interesting because you're going to get to influence youth, right? You start at a college and where you're taking folks that are really searching for what are they going to go do, and now you take them and you can figure out how to shape that leadership for the future. Because that's really what it is. The audience can't see it, but we have Captain Christina Camp here with us, and she's our public affairs officer. And as you look,
let's get her on.
There you go. We'll bring her on screen. She's like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, please, because she's been her incredible smile. What a nice lady. We just met you. Hi, Christina. Where are you from?
I am actually from the Eastern Shore of Virginia.
Okay,
awesome.
Very nice, Virginia. So Eastern Shore. So that's down in Hampton.
Parksley, Virginia.
Okay, very nice.
Not far.
On Dover Air Force Base 19 years ago.
Okay, well, good to have you. Thanks for bringing him over.
No, and it's folks like her, it's leadership like that from our younger team. That's awesome. And so being able to influence folks like Christina as they start their Air Force career is important. And she actually started as prior enlisted. You heard her say she enlisted in the Air Force, and then she became a PA, and it's awesome to have her. And
that's awesome.
She's a mother, and she's also a military spouse. And so that's very cool to have with her husband also serving in the military.
So. That's very cool. Well, thank you for coming on.
And congratulations.
Yeah.
On your
Thank
next
you.
venture.
He's already packing. He was telling me, right?
That's
You're getting
awesome.
ready.
Actually, right now.
Thanks for squeezing us into your schedule.
I know. We got him before he left. Oh, my Lord.
How we like ending with our guests is if you could tell our viewers and listeners, like, in this way, I'm going to tweak it. So if you had one piece of advice for someone listening who is an entrepreneur, but also possibly considering joining the Air Force, what would that be? Yeah.
So the world is a blank canvas for you. Javier, you talked about it at the beginning. Don't be afraid to take action. We tell this to young airmen. We tell this to other folks is you've got to take action and you've got to be biased towards action. The only way that you can get out there and do something is if you take a step.
Wow, yeah.
And you have to take that step. Whether you go back to the Indiana Jones things where he's leap of faith, he's gonna walk right and he's gonna step right out, and it's there and that leap of faith. And so take that faith. Inside you is a future, whether that's an airman, a soldier, a sailor, a Marine, or an amazing business owner. That's inside every single one of us. And so, or both, right. I'll figure out my business mindset as I go forward. But I think that's the number one thing is to be biased for action, move out and bring the family. I call it a family because it's that love between that whole network that's important. And so when you do that, whether that's as a solo business owner or as a business owner that has people that they get a chance to work for, have fun with it because that's a blast.
That is fantastic. Gosh, thank you so much for being here. You said you were humbled. We're humbled to have you here. What a cool time. Thank you for sharing your heart, your knowledge, your wisdom, and we wish you the best in your family. If I'm ever in the area over there, I'd love to come see you. I've been there one time, and I still remember the time I was in the Colorado. I'm a person that's from the beach, but something about mountains and woods that just really kind of stirs my heart. So thank you for coming on board. So Meghan, you want to do the send off?
Everyone, that was our special guest today, Matt Husemann. I wrote them down. So you can listen or watch. So if you want to watch, we are on YouTube. If you want to listen, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and Google.
Got it.
All the things. There's no excuses. You can find us.
You can find us. We are.
Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next one. But in the meantime, go create something.
Go create something.